Warning: the following video contains explicit language, which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hey everybody, it's Jeff. Glad everybody's here. Hope everybody's doing okay today. Boy, was it cold here last night. It was like -1, -2 here, below zero, and it's like, whoa. And you could hear the decks outside cracking. And it was a little bit windy too, so that didn't help. You know, when you got temperatures that low and the wind's blowing a little bit, I mean, God, it makes it feel even worse. But I mean, I was nice and warm. You know, this place has got pretty good heat in here. It's even better than the other place I was at, you know. I used to have that damn thing cranked up high and it just never felt like it was high enough, but I actually had to turn it down to 69 degrees in here because upstairs the heat, you know, heat rises, right? So whatever the temperature is here, it's going to be warmer upstairs. So so yeah, I had to turn it down. But yeah, I'm glad this is much better insulated. I think this building here is probably a newer building than the one that I was in over in VZ. The one in VZ, Christ, I remember that when my grandfather used to go up over there, and I remember the buildings there then. And when I lived in that apartment, there was wood paneling, you know, like from the 70s on the walls. And that's not the case here. So, I mean, I think, you know, this is a little bit newer. Melissa, she's got a good eye for eras, and she says the sink and the bathroom and stuff is like 80s. The cupboards in the kitchen are like 80s. So this building was probably put up in the 80s, whereas I think the ones in VZ that I was living at were probably put up in, the, you know, maybe the 70s or the, you know, late 60s. But yeah, so got the new water heater. I think I might have said that in the previous one video that I got my water heater. That's been good because I tested it, ran the hot water in the bathtub there for 15 or 20 minutes or so. Stayed good, so it was it's a good heater. That water was hotter too coming out of the faucet than the other heater that was here. This one they put in is just a little bit bigger than the older one, but you know, same model, you know, company, whatever. Just a bit bigger, taller. I mean, maybe a little wider, but yeah. So yeah, so everything's going good here. Roads are really icy, so you got to drive careful. The windshield on my truck cracked. When I got the truck, there was already like this tiny little crack in it, and Melissa says, well, Jeff, you better take care of that because it will spread if you don't. And I was like, okay, you know, I put it on the list of things to do, but god damn, this year's been so busy, I had so much to do, I just kept putting it off. The other day, I was driving, and I had a little bit of snow on the hood of my truck, and as I was driving, the wind was blowing the snow up on the glass, and when I did that, it started to crack. So now it's like, you know, like that long now. And I saw it crack, and I was like, holy shit. I mean, what it was I had the hot air blowing against the glass on one side, and then I had this ice cold snow landing on the glass, and that's what did it. Okay, that's what did it. So so I got, this week I'm going to have to call up, what the hell's the name? I can't think of the name, but it's in Brewer anyway. There's a glass company over there that I'm going to call up and see what they can do with that. they'll probably have to replace the windshield, I would imagine. So I'm going to be looking at about $300 or more. So yeah, that's the way it is. I mean, so if you do have it, well, if you live in a cold state like Maine, I mean, yeah, it's going to happen. But temperature, plays a role in that. Whether whether you have a small crack that turns into a big one, you have to be careful of that, I guess. But yeah, that's what happened there. So anyway, let's go to an article here from Daily Dose of Democracy here. That's okay. Trump, quote unquote, accidentally lets slip plan to rename Kennedy Center after himself. The cat's apparently out of the bag on our vainglorious nincompoop-in-chief's latest pathetic move to deify himself, having already gone to great lengths to destroy the reputation and prestige of America's preeminent performing arts center. The MAGA cult leader, quote, accidentally, unquote, let slip just what he has in store next. During a speech at the U.S. Institute of Peace yesterday, which he had his name slapped on earlier this week, Trump said with a chuckle, quote, you have a big event on Friday at the Trump Kennedy Center. Oh, excuse me, the Kennedy Center. Pardon me, such a terrible mistake, unquote. Donald's constant need for praise and validation is without parallel, and he's not about to leave the myth-making and memorializing to posthumous chants. Sad. Yeah, like I said, he's all about trying to protect his image after he's ruined it. No one else has ruined Trump's name. Let me get that straight. Despite, how everybody feels about him, he brought this on himself. His actions in the past and today and these days, he brought this on himself. Nobody could have come up with this much hatred towards a president unless that president was a terrible president to begin with. Okay? And so he has been. And so now he's all worried about that. It's like, well, Trump, you didn't seem to care when you were president the first time about what people thought of you. You lied to their face about COVID. You did what you wanted to do. You helped out the rich and you threw everybody else under the bus. And you didn't, you did such an abysmal job in the last year back then that, of your term, that everybody was just, we're getting rid of them. And it seems like it's playing out all over again. So, here he is, in a year, he's angered people more now than they were then. And he wants to try to reimagine himself, like, oh, I'm such a good man. I mean, I don't know what to say about the ego of this guy's head, but people that talk like that, where they're constantly praising themselves and naming things after themselves, I mean, there's something wrong, okay? It may not have much to do with dementia or, how his mind is declining. It's a personality problem, okay? It's something that he had, he did all the time, in the past, okay? He really thinks a lot of himself. And unfortunately, not many people that ever associated with him can say that he's such a great person. In fact, they call him every fucking name in the book because he is that, It's just all right. But, when he's up there and he's talking, he always has a habit of opening his mouth and spilling what, ideas that he's got in his head. He hangs himself all the fucking time. And this is the reason why people start to despise him. Okay? This is the reason why. Even MAGA right now, they are so pissed at him right now, it's awful. The hate, the comments, the way they're talking there, and the divisiveness inside that party. I mean, it's just crumbling like a fucking rock under a hammer. I mean, it's amazing how quickly MAGA has collapsed here. So I just this is all his doing, though. It really is. He couldn't have destroyed his own base as well as he did, if he wasn't the one responsible. He did these things. You can't blame MAGA for hating him and turning on him now. He's really done them, you know, a disservice, his own base. You don't fuck with your own base like that. But he did them a dirty there, and these people are just had it up to here with him. And I have to say, you know, well, I told you so, but I can't blame you for being upset with him. He certainly has pissed off everybody else. Next item, the Supreme Court gives Trump-backed gerrymander of Texas the green light to move forward. Of course! By a predictable 6-3 margin, the conservative-stacked Supreme Court just officially made a huge mess of Texas, rubber stamping Republicans' nakedly partisan scheme to effectively steal 5 congressional seats from Democrats in next year's midterm elections. The court's 3 liberal justices dissented, but the High Court's superblock of right-wing ideologues ensured that Donald Trump's plan to disenfranchise Democrat voters in the Lone Star State and insulate himself from actual accountability in the White House would move forward without further delay. Okay. So the Supreme Court basically gave the green light for a redistricting war to take place between the two parties because, hey, if you're going to okay it for Texas, then you can't go back on yourself and say, oh, you can't do it in California. No. Now it's going to be okay now for everybody, every state to do this now. Okay? This is what I was predicting was going to end up happening. And so, you know, this is something that I don't like either party doing. Okay? You know, just understand. I don't support Democrats doing this. I don't support Republicans doing this. Okay? That's cheating. It really is cheating. There's no other label to slap on this. Okay? And so we, you know, to watch this taking place, I can only think that this is going to dilute votes in such a way that I don't think people really comprehend yet. People's voices aren't really going to be heard because, you know, certain people, a lot of people are going to be left out while they're being inclusive with another side. You know, it just seems like it, you know, when they do polling or something like that, you know, those numbers are never going to match the returns in the election now because of the way they redistrict, right? So when we see any polling numbers next year or something like that, you can take it with a grain of salt. They could be off by a lot of points because, you know, now they all have to adjust. Well, if they redistrict, then how are you going to poll and get accurate polling now? You see? Just because you get, you know, a majority of the people you call or contact or however they do it, doesn't necessarily mean that's the way it's going to shake down in the end now because of the way the redistricting is going to take place. So, yeah, it's going to make things more difficult and complicated to understand, and that's the part that I don't like about redistricting, along with the fact that it's cheating before the fact. Okay, you know, I just I'm not a person that likes that, but it doesn't seem like anyone cares. I mean, the Supreme Court doesn't care, you know, Congress, the Senate, nobody seems to care, you know, and they're the ones that are going to be affected by this, so they ought to care. You know, they're the ones should be raising old Mary hell about it because a lot of these people are guaranteed to lose their seat, you know, next year, whether they go out and campaign or not. You know, it's sad. It really is. All right, next story here. House Democrat to file articles of impeachment against Hegseth over boat strikes. Quote, war crimes have been committed, unquote. Well, there's little chance Mike Johnson and his MAGA clown caucus will ever let Michigan Representative Sri Thanadar's measure come to a floor vote. It's worth noting that Democrats are stepping up to hold the Trump regime accountable for its many, many illegal transgressions. In a video statement yesterday, Thanadar announced his intentions to file 2 articles of impeachment explaining, quote, Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth is uniquely unqualified for his role. Every day it becomes clearer he is engaging in unlawful, illegal activity, unquote. Thanadar said the first article would be, quote, for murder and conspiracy to murder, unquote, over the deadly strikes on alleged narco boats, and the second for the, quote, reckless and unlawful mishandling of classified information, unquote, aka Signalgate. Yeah, they're still after him for that, okay, which is not a small matter, okay, that he did. But they're going to go after, they're going to try to go after him on those two things. Not that I expect that anything's going to come of it, but it's just, you know, an effort, even though it may be in vain, to say to Hegseth, look, we don't like what you're doing. We know what you're doing is wrong. You know what you're doing is wrong, but because Trump says it's okay to do it, you're doing it, okay? And that's not right. You were in the military. You know that illegal orders are not to be followed, and yet you've been given those illegal orders from the president himself, and you're following it. So that makes you as guilty as Trump. Okay? There's no way around it. That's just how it is. So, yeah, I mean, they tell us, oh, we bombed another narco boat. Okay, how do we know this? Are you really going to start believing the lies that have been told all year long under this regime? You're going to start believing that what they're telling you now is the truth? Especially if they're doing things illegally. Okay, I don't care what justification they had to bomb those boats, but they had no right to do that. Okay, there are international laws for this sort of thing here. Okay, and he's broken them. And the thing of it is that you know, the UN hasn't really done much about it, which is very shocking to me because, you know, I guess because America is its biggest powerhouse, it's sword, if you will, to rattle for other nations. But now that sword is stained with rust, and they're not doing anything about it. Okay, and it's like, you know, you guys, when the time is needed for them to step up to the plate, you know, and hold this country accountable for the crimes it's committing, they ain't there. You know, it's like, oh, it's okay to go slap down some small country in, you know, in another part of the world, and, you know, put sanctions on them and deny them, you know, blockades and stuff like that. Okay, it's okay for them to go after that, but the United States, no, we're not doing that. United States, okay, the United States can do what they want. Well, that makes the whole UN look like shit. It does. It makes the whole UN look like shit, and they lose their credibility around the world because everybody's going to know what the UN's all about, okay? They're going to be looked at as the new pariahs in the globe because they won't hold this country accountable. They won't take actions and steps against this regime, okay? And it's incumbent on them to do so. You know, they have to. But, you know, we all know what's going on here. All right, Pam Bondi orders law enforcement to investigate anti-fascist groups over accusations of domestic terrorism. In a nefarious and downright Orwellian move, Donald Trump's absolute hack of an attorney general issued a sweeping new order demanding federal law enforcement step up its investigations into the nebulous anti-fascist movement and other similar, quote, extremist groups, unquote, whatever the hell that's supposed to mean. Nowhere in the order will you find requests for agents to investigate right-wing extremism, which has been and continues to be the primary motivating force behind actual domestic terrorism in the United States. Indeed, Bondi is broadly redefining the term domestic terrorism to be so vague it can apply to almost anyone opposing Trump's autocratic regime. In her memo, Bondi anonymously declared, quote, "These domestic terrorists use violence or the threat of violence to advance political and social agendas, including opposition to law and immigration enforcement, extreme views in favor of mass migration and open borders, adherence to radical gender ideology, anti-Americanism, anti-capitalism, or anti-Christianity," unquote. Did you get all that? The slope into full-blown fascism just got a whole lot slipperier. Yeah. No, it's the intent of Trump, Bondi, and everyone else in that crazy-ass regime to shut people up. Okay? They just don't want people talking bad about them. Like, that's going to stop the resentment that this country has built up here over the last 12 months. It's not going to change attitudes. In fact, if you try to force people not to talk about it, that's only going to enrage them further, Miss Bondi. Okay? If you think that's going to help, it's not going to help. People will continue to bitch and complain about Trump, and there's not a fucking thing you can do about it, even if you go out there and you start rounding people up like you've been doing and deporting them into other countries, because the people left are going to get even uglier, and before you know it, you're going to have a full-blown revolt on your hands. Okay? That's what you're going to have. And if you think you can squash a full-blown revolt quickly, you're wrong. There ain't enough goddamn military in the country to subdue over 300 million Americans. So, you know, understand the path you're taking here. Like they said, a slippery slope. It is a very slippery slope, and you're not experienced enough to be able to manage that. Okay, you're young. This is your first time in this position. Just because you are a lawyer doesn't mean you are capable of handling a matter of a scope this size. You cannot do it. Trump cannot do it. Neither one of you has the experience to be able to do something like this, and I wouldn't even try, even if you did have the experience, because nowhere in history has ever anything like that ever worked out for a country. It always leads to revolts. Every time you try to tighten your grip on the public, they always come back. You know. So, like I said, this is, you know, this has been the point of everything that Trump's been doing here this year, has all been about trying to control the public, control Americans, control their every aspect of their fucking life, taking away things from them and shutting them up so they can't bitch about it. This is what he's been doing all fucking year. Okay? And whenever the courts and all that try to, you know, say, you know, you did wrong here, he won't care. He doesn't care. He don't listen. He calls them, you know, liberals and extreme liberal, you know, liberals are, you know what I'm saying? He makes them, tries to paint them as a bad guy. All right? And everything that he does is good. You know, it's funny, the people who have detached themselves from Trump are the ones coming out saying, you know, this guy, he's bad. You know, what he has planned for this country is bad. And these are coming from people who once worked with him, supported him, and in some point in their time with Trump fucked them over, and then they disappear. And, you know, now they're coming back and they're telling, you know, warning people. And they've been doing that since last year. A lot of people coming forward say, this guy is no good. He is no fucking good. You know? And you know, nothing has disproven that. This year has been the proof that these people were telling us. I mean, it's happened. Everything they said was going to happen in this country, it's happened, because they know Trump. They know him better than you. You know, for those of you who think you're MAGA, they know this man better than you do, and they told you that was a wrong thing to do. It was better to take and vote for Kamala Harris and avoid that pitfall than it was to just arrogantly go in that direction and assume, oh, it's not going to matter to me if Trump gets ugly. Well, guess what? Now they found out, yeah, your head's on the chopping block too. Trump don't care. It's not about, you know, anything but himself. He made you think he cared about you, which everybody that knew Trump was laughing their fucking heads off in the background. But he did that, and you guys swallowed his shit. You know, there's really no more really to explain about that, because I think most people now, more than they did before, would agree with me and say, yeah, you're right. And even though I'm glad that these people are starting to come around and realize they fucked up by voting for him, it's still frustrating to know that, you know, it's going to be not as easy to undo that mistake, okay, as it was to make that mistake. Okay, so these people who have come around and decided Trump's no good, you're going to have to help the rest of us to get rid of him if that's what you want to do. Okay, because it can't be done just by Democrats alone. It's going to take the help of some of the Republicans out there to get that going. Okay, otherwise we're going to have to ride this out to its bitter end, you know. And I can't say that a lot of the Republicans out there are going to be any happier in the next 3 years than they are now, you know. So, all right. Let's go to commercial break. We'll be right back.
I'm Alex Curtis. I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Roxy Sugar, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins. I'm an artist, and this is me.
This
is me.
me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you, original.
Kirk went to the DealBook Summit the other day, and the conversation turned to why she believes women from New York City overwhelmingly voted for Zohran Mamdani, and now I am dumber for having listened to it.
So I lived in Manhattan for a while, and I loved this city. I'm going to come at this from a female voter because a high percentage of his voters were female. I think there's a tendency, especially when you live in a city like Manhattan, where, again, you are so career-driven and you almost look to the government as a form of replacement for certain things, relationship-wise even.
What?
So
what are you saying?
You see things a little bit differently. What I don't want to have happen is women, young women in the city, look to the government as a solution to put off having a family or a marriage because you're relying on the government to support you.
Oh my
instead
God.
of.
Now see, this is prime example of projection on Erica's part, because the only person trying to replace their husband with the government is you, the Vice President of the United States. And did you guys notice that she talks about women who voted for Zohran Mamdani in the same way she talks about her late husband, all breathy and looking up to the sky? I'm starting to believe that's how Erica just looks when she talks about things she's repulsed by. I truly cannot understand how anyone can come to this conclusion, that women in New York City voted for Zohran Mamdani to replace being in relationships or having a husband. Did I miss the part in his campaign where he promised us free vibrators? I must have. And did it ever occur to you, Erica, that some women may have voted for Zohran Mamdani because they want to find a husband? After all, one of the things he promised was quick and efficient public transportation. And there's so much more time to date when you're not waiting an hour for the fucking 6 train. I mean, I could sit here and say how insulting it is to insinuate that women don't care about actual policy. But I guess at the end of the day, I would much rather someone believe that I voted for Zohran Mamdani to avoid having a husband than someone thinking I voted for Donald Trump because my husband told me to. 'Cause that's so much worse. Anyways, bye.
Between the
but I am the few person of you love. So I believe in you when you said you had love.
Be a part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
Okay, welcome back, everybody. All right, so another story here. Admiral says there was no, quote, kill them all, unquote, order and boat attack, but video has alarmed the lawmakers. Navy Admiral Frank Bradley told lawmakers during a series of closed-door classified briefings yesterday that there was no explicit kill them all order from Secretary of War Crimes Pete Hegseth. Even as video footage of the infamous September 2nd attack left grave questions over the second strike that killed 2 survivors clinging to wreckage following the initial attack, Representative Adam Smith, the top Democrat on the House Armed Services Committee, demanded further investigation and said the survivors were, quote, basically 2 shirtless people clinging to the bow of a capsized and inoperable boat drifting in the water until the missile come and kill them, unquote. So the cover-up is in full swing here now, folks, okay? The Admiral, which, okay, he wouldn't have said what he said if he didn't think that, you know, there would be, you know, repercussions to follow, all right? And, of course, that involves Hegseth, okay? So you really can't take down the Admiral without taking down Hegseth, okay? Because one issued an illegal order and the other one followed it, okay? Now, if it's so difficult for even an admiral to recognize an illegal order and defy it, you know, a guy at the top, what makes you think that it's going to be any easier for anyone under that chain of command to do the same? I mean, yeah, sure, there might be some that would hesitate and maybe even defy illegal orders, but when you have an admiral who worked his way up through the ranks in the military, okay, and, you know, actually went to officer training school and was taught in that fucking school about illegal orders. And now he's been put in that position, well, he was put in that position, of being tested on what he was taught, and he failed. He followed the fucking order, okay, and now, you know, his nuts are on the line along with Pete Hegseth. Now, I just feel like that's really telling about, you know, this man here, Admiral Bradley, that he's put politics above his, you know, his oath of the Constitution, okay? Obviously, I would think that, you know, Bradley was a Republican and a Trump supporter, and you know, because Trump wouldn't have anybody around him that wasn't kissing his ass. And so this guy, you know, apparently without any fucking thought, would just go ahead and follow any order that was issued to him by the president, thinking that, well, because it comes from the president, I'm on, you know, I don't have to pay the price. Ignorance. You're wrong. You know, by law, you know, you follow an illegal order, okay, and you can't use that excuse to defend yourself. I was just following orders. Didn't work in Nuremberg trials. As sure as hell ain't gonna work on this. All right, and you know, if they take down Pete Hegseth, he's not gonna go down alone. Okay, because then that's like all of a sudden you're the next head on the block, and if they saw the guy above you took a fall, you're gonna be the next one to take a fall. All right, they wouldn't be going after Hegseth if they thought he did anything right. So, you know, I think it would, you know, Bradley should just admit that he fucked up, okay, and take the fall. Resign, whatever. Do what he's got to do, okay? If he wants to save any face or save any dignity, okay, to his career as an admiral, he should just say, okay, I shouldn't have followed that order. It wasn't right, and you know, I'm gonna resign my commission, okay, and take whatever punitive measures are done. You know, that would be the best thing he could do. And I think that, you know, other military members that are officers, if they see that, they'll get the message. Okay, you're gonna have to watch out for what orders you get from on high, okay? Because if they don't sound right to you, then they're not right. If they're not lawful, if they go outside the box of what's legal, don't do it, okay? You know, I don't know what else to say about that. Next story. Grand jury rejects new indictment against New York Attorney General Letitia James. Well, now would you look at that. In another embarrassing blow, Pam Bondi failed to secure a new indictment against New York Attorney General and Trump nemesis Letitia James after a judge dismissed the DOJ's previous mortgage fraud prosecution less than 2 weeks ago. James's initial case was tossed just before Thanksgiving because the acting U.S. Attorney at the time, former Trump personal attorney Lindsay Halligan, was illegally appointed. Undeterred, Trump's hapless attorney general pressured prosecutors to run it back with a new grand jury in Virginia. But grand jurors promptly rejected their request to bring new charges yesterday. Word on the street is Bondi will try yet again for a new indictment because revenge is a dish apparently best served ice cold, covered in freezer burns and months past its expiration date. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, look, let's be honest. Pam Bondi is not the one pushing this. It's Trump. Trump is the one pushing Pam Bondi to do his bidding. Okay? Because that's the way his regime works. You know, he tells them what to do and they do it. Okay? So, yeah, well, I mean, we're sitting here picking on Bondi, but Bondi is simply following her directives from Trump. He's not going to let her give up on Letitia James, okay? He hates her. Trump does, I mean, and so Bondi has no choice, okay? Well, she does have a choice, you know, if she really had any honor or ethics. But she's got no choice but to follow his fucking orders, okay? And it's all for nothing. It's almost as bad as them going after Bill Clinton for a fucking blowjob, okay? And I'm just thinking, you know, this is just revenge, okay? This is all it is, just fucking revenge. But we all know that this is a smokescreen to the reason why Trump's acting this way, and it's because he's trying to cover up a crime. Okay, that's the only reason. You know, they got somebody to drop the fucking case. All right, which is what he wanted, and now he's going after everybody that went after him on that case. Okay, so that, you know, this guy is so fucking crazy. It's awful. I mean, nobody can do their job even in an honest way, that, you know, runs a grain against Trump, you know, without him trying to come after you in some fashion, you know. All right, U.S. layoffs this year topped 1 million, data shows. How exactly 1 million layoffs and counting square with Trump's boisterous claims of creating the, quote, hottest economy, unquote, the world has ever seen is anyone's guess. But something tells us the rationale won't include any actual facts or data. Despite Donald's desperate proclamations insisting otherwise, Americans are now experiencing the largest labor force cuts since 2020, the last time this MAGA nut was in office, and just in time for the holidays to boot, okay? And here's some interesting things here. The federal minimum wage in 2012 was $7.25. The federal minimum wage this year is $7.25. Does that make any sense to you when you factor in inflation and everything else? You know, more money to the top, and we're still making the same over 10, 15 years later. Okay, you know, this is not right. It's not the start of oligarchy. We're in the thick of it. You know what I'm saying? Oh, God. Okay, hold on a second here. Okay, here's something here, sort of international news. This is from the New Republic, written by Hafiz Rashid. France's Macron warned other leaders about potential Trump betrayal. French President Emmanuel Macron warned Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and other European leaders on a phone call that Donald Trump could betray Ukraine. A transcript of the Monday call to strategize how to protect Ukraine was leaked to the German newspaper Der Spiegel and published Thursday. Macron, Zelensky, German Chancellor Friedrich Merz, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, Finnish President Alexander Stubb, and other European leaders all took part and discussed U.S. negotiation efforts to end the Russia-Ukraine war. Quote, there is a possibility that the U.S. will betray Ukraine on the issue of territory without clarity on security guarantees, unquote, Macron said, noting that there was, quote, a big danger, unquote, for Zelensky. German leader Merz also expressed his misgivings, telling Zelensky that Trump's hand-picked negotiators, Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff, quote, are playing games with both of you and us, unquote. While European leaders have expressed their concerns about America's Ukraine policies, this transcript is the clearest indication of how they feel about the Trump administration and its efforts. The Finnish president has gotten along well with Trump in public, but still said, quote, we must not leave Ukraine and Vladimir alone with these guys, unquote, referring to Witkoff and Kushner. Quote, I agree with Alexander that we need to protect Vladimir, unquote, added NATO Secretary General Rutte. Late last month, the Trump administration presented a 28-point peace plan to resolve the conflict that was considered a Russian, quote-unquote, wish list, and appeared to be translated from Russian. Under that plan, Ukraine would give up substantial territory, refrain from joining NATO, and limit the size of its military. After Ukraine weighed in, a new plan was released with a shortened 19 points, to which Russia has not agreed. But it seems that Europeans are worried about Trump deferring to Russia and abandoning Ukraine, and based on past events, who can blame them? Yeah, you know, what can I say? You know, this is not the time for any country that's in the situation that Ukraine is in to come to the United States and ask for help. Not with the guy we got sitting in there right now in the White House. Okay, this is not the time. You're going to have to go it alone with some other country, or just go it alone. This is all you can do, because you can't trust that bastard. I wouldn't trust him. I wouldn't. Okay, I don't think many people in America would trust Trump either. All right? And this guy, you know, the rest of the world is paying very close attention to what's happening here in the States. They see what's going on. They know what's going on. The press over there ain't lying to their people about what's happening here in this country because they got no reason to. It's not their country. So they could say all the nasty shit that we're not hearing. They could say it to their people over there. So who God only knows, you know, what we're not being told here by our press, but the press in these other countries are telling their citizens, okay? So there's a truth somewhere out there. But the fact is that the rest of the world, you know, hates Trump. They won't say it to his face, but, you know, they just, they don't like him. Because, you know, he's a showboat. You know, he's just prima donna or whatever you want to call it. Okay, he has no fucking class. And he has no credibility. And he won't honor his agreements. I mean, up to now, Trump has been trying to box Zelensky into a Russian-made demand, okay, and trying to pass it off as, oh, American points, peace points. No, he didn't do that. He calls up Putin, and Putin tells Trump what kind of points you need to put down for peace. Trump didn't do any thinking about that, okay, getting his orders directly from Putin. So the rest of the world sees that. You know, Emmanuel Macron, the French president, he knows this. Okay? Trust me, you know, the rest of the world is not as inept as you might think when it comes to intelligence and no understanding the leaders in other worlds, okay? They are just as much on the fucking ball about that as we are. So they know what's going on behind the scenes. And if that guy, if Macron is saying, don't trust Trump, then he's got grounds to say that. He absolutely has facts, probably, to say that. And Zelensky should, you know, keep that in mind and stop hoping the United States will change its ways and do something to help them. It's not going to happen. It could have happened, you know, with Joe Biden. Joe Biden was doing everything that he could to help out Zelensky, but I knew once his term was over and Trump got in there, that was it. The party's over as far as you know, as helping Zelensky goes. And, you know, I was hoping that their problems with Russia would have been resolved before then, but who fucking knows, you know. But, you know, there were certain things that Biden did that were missteps, I think, during the war, that he should have done sooner instead of avoiding, that might have ended the war quicker. But, you know, that's neither here nor there now. So, you know, Zelensky has been forced to drag this war out longer than he wanted, simply because now we have a jackass for a leader in our country instead of someone who really has the qualifications to be president of the United States. Okay, this story here. This is from NBC. Officials say a fresh review of evidence led to arrests in D.C.'s pipe bomb case. The bombs were planted outside the Republican and Democrat National Party headquarters in Washington, D.C. on the eve of the January 6th siege on the Capitol. So we're still dealing with that right now. For years, the person who planted pipe bombs at the Republican and Democratic National Party headquarters the night before rioters took over the Capitol remained a mystery. But on Thursday, federal investigators announced a major breakthrough in the January 5th, 2021 case. Brian Cole Jr., 30 years old, was arrested and charged with transporting an explosive device and attempted malicious destruction by means of explosive materials, according to charging documents filed Thursday afternoon. Attorney General Pam Bondi credited investigators and prosecutors for, quote, sifting through evidence that had been sitting at the FBI, unquote. There were no new tips that led to the arrest, Bondi told reporters at a news conference on the previously stalled case. Quote, this investigation is ongoing, unquote, Bondi said. Quote, as we speak, search warrants are being executed and there could be more charges yet to come, unquote. While President Trump pardoned hundreds of January 6 rioters on his first day back in office, including one charged with setting off an explosive device during a battle between pro-Trump mob and law enforcement officers at the Capitol's Lower West Tunnel, the language of the pardon did not appear to extend to the person who planted the pipe bombs. A former January 6 prosecutor said they expected a defense lawyer to argue the pardon did apply to the conduct. Though the pipe bombs were found on the day of the riot, officials have not yet identified a motive. They got a picture here of the person. It's kind of grainy, but you know, there's a picture of this. This is the person that was planting the bombs here. FBI Co-Deputy Director Dan Bongino, who led the investigation, criticized the Biden administration for, quote, focusing on other things, unquote, and said he created a multi-agency team to re-examine the evidence that led to a suspect. Quote, you're not going to walk into our capital city out down to explosive devices and walk off in the sunset, unquote, Bongino said about the would-be bomber. Quote, not going to happen. We were going to track this person to the end of the earth. There was no way he was getting away, unquote. Bongino, in 2024 episode of his eponymous podcast, claimed that the pipe bomb was an, quote, unquote, inside job to stop Trump. Quote, this was a setup. I have zero doubt, unquote, he said last year. Well, it's funny because he placed them at Democrats, headquarters too. So, federal investigators have said a person placed one pipe bomb near the Democrat National Committee headquarters and another near the Republican National Committee headquarters on the eve of January 6th siege. The FBI has repeatedly asked the public for information that could lead to an arrest, including releasing additional video footage of the person planting one of the bombs in January. The Bureau said the person was estimated to be 5 feet 7 inches tall and was wearing Nike Air Max Speed turf shoes and a gold logo. Okay. The pipe bombs, which were discovered about 15 hours after they were placed, were viable devices that could have seriously injured or even killed bystanders. The FBI has said investigators have conducted more than 1,000 interviews and reviewed tens of thousands of video files. Coal was identified through the purchase of 6 galvanized pipes, both black and galvanized end caps, 9-volt batteries, Walmart kitchen timers, and electrical wires, according to the charging document. The document also says Cole's cell phone engaged in 7 data sessions with towers, quote, in the area of the RNC and DNC, unquote, on the evening of January the 5th, 2021. Suspect's step-grandfather, Earl Donette, said in a brief phone call that he spoke with the FBI about his step-grandson, but he declined to comment further. Cole's father, Brian Cole Sr., declined to comment. Investigators can be seen on aerial video blocking off the entrance to the suspect's father's business with police tape. The FBI could also be seen at the family home collecting items from cars that were parked outside. The years-long probe that failed to gain momentum drew criticism from lawmakers, especially as the January 6th riot took center stage in deepening political divisions. Trump's pardon of the January 6th rioters, whom he described as quote-unquote hostages, drew strong rebuke from Democrats. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries accused Republicans in a statement at the time of, quote, celebrating pardons issued to a bloodthirsty mob that violently assaulted police officers, unquote. The Trump administration fired multiple federal prosecutors who worked on the January 6 cases this year. 2 were suspended in October after they used the phrase, quote, mob of rioters, unquote, in a sentencing memo. Yeah, because that goes against Trump's narrative that, oh, these are peaceful people. The mystery of the pipe bomber's identity helped fuel some conspiracy theories, including the notion that the government had set up Trump supporters who stormed the Capitol. Last month, the FBI debunked another theory that suggested the bombs were planted by a former Capitol police officer. Representative Barry Loudermilk, a Republican from Georgia, is one who amplified some of the conspiracy theories that have circulated online, including the one about the former Capitol police officer. Loudermilk was named chairman of a select subcommittee that aims to counter the findings of the now defunct January 6th committee that operated during the Biden administration. Yeah, and why is it debunked? Trump. Okay. He told reporters Thursday that he spoke to the FBI in the morning and that it is, quote, confident, unquote, they got the right person. Loudermilk added that he hopes to get a briefing from investigators soon, noting that the congressional investigation was separate from the FBI's criminal probe. Quote, that would be great if we could, if they were willing to give us more information, unquote, Loudermilk said. Quote, but at the same time, you know, the FBI is going to be questioning, and there is an active case that we don't want to assert anything that they have, unquote. Greg Rosen, who led the now-defunct Capitol Siege section of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the District of Columbia, told NBC News on Thursday morning that the suspect's arrest is a reflection on the work of the type of career FBI special agents and prosecutors who have been targeted by the Trump administration for their work on the January 6 cases. Quote, this is a testament to the incredible work of career FBI agents and prosecutors who have been working this case for years, unquote, Rosen said. Well, while we don't yet know all the facts, the American people should be proud of their work, unquote. A neighbor who lives near a home associated with Cole in Woodbridge, Virginia, said he was shocked to learn that the pipe bomb suspect resided on the same block. Quote, nothing here ever happens, the neighbor said. Quote, it's like Sleepy Town, unquote. Yeah. Well, yeah, okay, so yeah, this is, you know, I thought these people were you know, these MAGA people on that day were supposed to be nice and friendly, and it was a, you know, it was a beautiful day according to Trump, you know, even though all the video footage was, you know, slapping him, beating him to a pulp every time he would say something like that, because, Christ, everybody there had a goddamn camera phone, you know, and everything that was that they recorded was uploaded online, which gave the FBI the easiest time in the world to track down people. You know, I don't know, I still to this day can't understand why these people thought that if they recorded this and posted it, they'd get away with it, you know, that no one would be looking. You know, I think a lot of these people that did that and thought they could get away with it are people that were probably not as in tune with how the internet works as others, okay? And I guess they figured that whatever they put on their pages is private, okay, and only certain, you know, no, it isn't. Nothing is private. I don't give a shit if you agreed to a privacy. No. That stuff can be retrieved by people that you don't even know are behind the curtains. Okay? And these agencies here that have internet companies and stuff, they have to work with law enforcement if something happens and the police or the FBI needs to recover footage, they have to comply. Okay? So you're not private. Nothing you do online is private anymore. Okay, so it hasn't been for a long time. And, but I guess, I don't know, more people are going to have to wake up to that fact and understand that that's the case, you know. But, you know, like I said about the Trump administration or the regime, you know, what can we really believe about anything? Even with this article I just read to you, this picture that I showed you of a man wearing what looks like a hoodie here, okay? I mean, how can they get a face or anything like that from it, you know? I mean, yeah, they got video, but to me, I don't see pipes. What I see is him putting down a bag, you know, or something. Could be anything in that bag. You know, you have to be like that. When Trump, I mean, because we're still kind of wondering whether or not Trump was actually hit in the ear with that bullet at that stupid rally, because everybody's been taking pictures of that ear that was supposedly hit, and it looks perfectly normal, okay? There doesn't appear to be any damage to it, okay? So, you know, we can't believe everything that's going on. Maybe they got this person. Maybe this is the person that set down pipe bombs, okay? Or maybe this is just a convoluted propaganda, or, you know, they just grab somebody at random and say, okay, you're taking the fall, you know, just to somehow make themselves look good, like they're doing their job. I mean, remember, Kash Patel, his head's on the line right now. Trump is thinking about getting rid of his ass, and all of a sudden this comes out. Okay? This was not even like, you know, a few days ago. You know, I read that to you and said about how, you know, Trump wants to, you know, can, or is thinking about canning cash. And then a few days later, we get this story. Oh, we got the bomb, you know, the pipe bomber. Okay? Yeah, that timing is everything, people. And if it doesn't sound right, probably isn't. Okay? So I don't know. But I thought it was interesting, and that I should point that out. So who knows? Anyway, this is the last thing here I'll read, which I thought was pretty interesting here. If I can get that to come up here. Okay. A 14-year-old wins $25,000 for origami that can hold 10,000 times its own weight. Okay, a young man, and I'm guessing this is the picture here of the young man here. It's I don't know if you can see that. This damn camera here. I don't know what the hell to do with that. Okay. Anyway. A young man has folded his origami hobby into a potential career path as an innovator, having used the Japanese art form to create a structure capable of holding 10,000 times its own weight. His demonstration, which included extensive testing and personal invention, took first prize at the Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovators Challenge in October, giving the lad $25,000 to fold into his wallet. 14-year-old Miles Wu from New York City has been folding origami animals and insects for years. He got so good at it that he has even started designing his own folding designs. His eventual award-winning idea came from studying how origami had previously been used as a field for innovation in medicine. It was during January's wildfires in Southern California and Hurricane Helen, when Wu familiarized himself with deployable disaster shelters, that he realized he might use origami to build a better one. He began personal experimentation with a kind of origami fold known as Miura-ori, which creates patterned parallelograms by folding a piece of paper over itself into a smaller area. Quote, a problem with current deployable structures and emergency structures is, for example, tense or sometimes strong. Sometimes they can compact really small, and sometimes they're easily deployable, but almost never are they all three. But Miura-ori could potentially solve that problem, unquote, Wu told Business Insider. Quote, I found that Miura-ori was really strong, light, and folds down really compactly, unquote. He tested 3 different types of paper, folded into 3 different heights, lengths, and angles of parallelograms, creating 54 variations, which he tested over 108 trials, attempting to see how much weight they could support by collapsing in on themselves. Using every book in his small library, he eventually had to ask his parents to buy research weights to finish his trials. The final statistic I got about the strongest Miura-ori that I tested was that it could hold over 10,000 times its own weight, unquote, Wu said. Quote, I calculated that to be the equivalent of a New York City cab holding over 4,000 elephants, unquote. It's not bad for a 14-year-old. Wu believed that less acutely angled, smaller folds with heavier material would prove the strongest, which was partially true. Counterintuitively, perhaps, it was the lighter material that held up better. Taking first prize in the Thermo Fisher Scientific Junior Innovators Challenge requires being selected in a body of 300 peers and their experiments out of 2,000 entrants. Of those 330 are then selected to travel to Washington, D.C. for a presentation on their work. Wu's parents have decided the money will go towards his higher education, and Wu himself is already returning to his origami research. Pretty clever, isn't it? You know, to think that all those folds and everything could take paper and make it strong like that, you know. I mean, of course, if you're going to try to use it in some fashion in the outside, it's got to stand up to the weather, right? So it won't be paper. It'll probably be some other material that's you know, waterproof, and they'll have ways to you know, tack it down so it doesn't get blown away. Because you know, sometimes things that are light can be a weakness in itself. Because you know, if it's light, the wind can catch it, and you know, but you know, no one would ever think that you could make something out of paper that could hold 10,000 times its own weight. You know. But that's a smart little kid. I always liked origami because there was, I can't remember when this was. I think this was in the 90s. And at the mall here, they had some, like an oriental display thing going down the length of the mall. And there were some people doing that out of paper and stuff. And I was like amazed at, you know, the things they could make out of that origami and stuff. I mean, I always like crafts. I like the things that people can make and stuff like that. And so, you know, I was like really, you know, interested. And then, of course, I met this guy, veteran at the VA, that he does that. I mean, when he would wait for his appointments, he'd be sitting here with sheets of paper, and he'd be sitting there making ducks and all kinds of stuff. You know, he would just make them, then give it to somebody, make another one, give that one to somebody. You know, he had like all kinds of paper on. And I was thinking, Jesus, you know, it would be pretty cool to learn how to do that. But, you know, I just never really thought about learning how to do it. But it's pretty clever. It's pretty clever. This kid thought of that as like, I wonder if that could be used in some special way other than just decorative, that maybe we could make some use out of it, you know, for people, you know, to make something with it that can help productivity or something. That's the kind of mental power we need in this country. More of it now, I think, is that people, instead of going to school just to make themselves wealthy, you know, go to school to learn how to contribute. Okay, in some fashion. We definitely need more doctors. We definitely need more veterinarians. We definitely need, you know, more service-oriented people, laborers and stuff like that. People who contribute, you know, in some fashion to the overall society. Because, you know, looking up to the wealthy as the answer to our woes has not yielded us much of a fucking return, has it? You know. Okay, so that's it for today, and I hope everybody has a good weekend. So subscribe, comment, and share. Keep your ears open for health issues, and be kind to one another there as we go through the holiday season. And I'll talk to you guys later. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.